Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Peter, for the introduction. Tear Down Silos is the title. My name is Konstantin, and I'll try to talk about organization and silos. A few infos about me. I'm CTO and founder of Cozy, a company located in Darmstadt, Germany. I'm product owner for internal products at our company. I'm focusing on agile organizations. I'm trainer and coach. The continuous pain in the company's neck, fostering them to inspect and adapt continuously, and have been with an IT consultant firm before for around 10 years. As you can see from that list, CTO in my position today means more something like Chief Teaming Officer or Culture and Transition Officer or something like that. And as Peter introduced, I will focus on cultural topics from the DevOps ecosystem and not on pure technical things. Just to give you a context, what is Cozy? We are a spin-off of a scientific institute in Darmstadt, and we started our business providing solutions for digital media. That means delivering images, ebooks, music, audiobooks, videos to several devices, securing them, topics like DRM, watermarking, streaming, downloading, secure downloading, all that kind of stuff was primarily in our focus. And we started doing jobs for customers several years ago and decided as well to go to the cloud several years ago, and we have been around with AWS for, I think, at least 5 years or something like that. I said that's the focus of the past. We've widened our focus. Today, we are building software for clients, not only from the digital media scene. And I don't want to nag you with, we have the best frameworks or something like that. We believe in good software is built by good people, and that means the team is the focus. Do you have a problem? We can give you the right team for that problem, to fix that problem. And if you're interested to have more information about us, don't visit our website. It's pretty old. We are currently updating it, and you will find this nice persons in a few weeks or days on our website. As you can see, when you look at that team, there are no organizational silos in that team. It's a cross-functional team covering all aspects of modern software development, backend, front-end, mobile, DevOps, and the agile part of the story. But why did we do something like that and tear down the silos? That's an aspect from the DevOps culture which says you have to tear down your silos to have a really DevOps culture. But why? What is the problem? We have a little flashback. What's the problem we try to fix by tearing down silos? And I will cover two topics. The first one is, in most classical organizations, dev and ops teams have different goals. That means, you know that from many slides and conferences, I think it's a short flashback. The development team is focused on delivering continuous value, small, independent changes, continuous changes. Change is the norm, quick response to market changes, to customer demands, whatever. Scrum focuses on delivering a shippable product at the end of the sprint, and that means shippable, ship it, not just potentially shippable. And operations has different goals set by the management, not because ops guys are bad people. The goals they got from the management was you have to ensure a stable application, We don't want to have any incidents or major bugs in production, and we don't want to have any downtimes. That means development focuses on many small changes and continuously changing, and operations with that goal is focusing on have rare changes, and these changes will be very big. I have worked for banks for years, and you have 4 release windows a year to deploy software to production. And from my point of view, that's not software anymore, that's hardware. That's like in a hardware business, and hardware is delivered more frequently today than it is software in classical organizations. So the first problem is we have that wall between dev and ops, and the software artifacts are thrown across that wall to ops people to deploy it, as real tech Donald Trump says it. I'll give you a chance to take a picture. And the second problem after different goals is handovers. Handovers between different teams, dev teams, ops teams, we'll see additional teams a bit later. And there's a wonderful scene describing that within the book, The Phoenix Project. Who of you have read the book, The Phoenix Project? That's good. And there's a scenario where they're discussing waiting times. And for an old Kanban user like me, that's pretty obvious, but they find out that a job which is mainly typing of 30 seconds takes 63 hours time because of all the waiting and queuing times. And that's the problem with handovers. You have to ensure handovers. Please provide a documentation for the ops team. We aren't able to deploy that software without any documentation, written in Word and PowerPoint. And it's creating a database table. It will take 30 seconds, and you have to create bunches of documentation, wait for a long time, and so on and so on. And the biggest problem, we heard that in the talk about monitoring, is the dev guys don't know how their software is performing in production because they throw it above that fence and it's gone away. Maybe they get an email, your service crashed, please look into that log file and say what to do. And the ops guys have a black box deployed. They don't know which features are in, what business value is delivered. It's a pretty black box. And that's one of the main problems, especially for dev people, just don't know how their software performs in production. Okay, got that point? Seems necessary because of that 2 points to break down this organizational silos and have a new kind of collaboration. But how? There's a wide range of scenarios how dev and ops can collaborate to have DevOps and no silos anymore. I chose 3 scenarios which are the most common ones from my point of view, from my personal point of view, and I think the most valuable for the most of the companies out there. The first one is the most obvious one. We'll split the ops team and spread former members through all the dev teams. Every dev team will get one ops guy. That's the most obvious thing, and that's I would call it the classical agile way. It's the classical cross-functional way, because that means a cross-functional Scrum team, for example, has to have all professions on board to deliver production-ready software. That means front-end dev, back-end dev, UX design, whatever, maybe an ops guy as well. It's a hard scenario because it means all the guys in the new cross-functional teams have a big challenge regarding mindset change. Before it was, that are the ops guys destroying our software. Okay, that are the creative dev guys, and now they have to collaborate in one team. That's a hard shift in mindset. In best case, the whole team becomes more opsy after that merge, because the developers are learning all that ops stuff. And it's created in an intended way, something like, okay, we have to tear down our silos, here are the ops guys, and here are the dev guys, and now we have to collaborate, okay, we will merge their team. But a second example is that dev teams created by setting up something like Kubernetes and realizing, okay, we have some ops to-dos now. There are containers, we are using containers for our software development. How do we start that containers? We had seen several options to deploy that to AWS, but the real thing we want to do is having something like Kubernetes and not dropping it into Elastic Beanstalk or something like that. That means we'll set up our own Kubernetes cluster using cloud resources, and just after setting that up, the dev team created some kind of ops to-dos. That means there are two ways to create that team structure. The first one is merging former separated dev and ops teams, or the dev team creates to-dos, sets up an infrastructure, and has created ops to-dos by that. The color means, in the end, in best case, that a team like that will have both professionals, both skills, not in the end, okay, every team should have an ops guy for that. And he's named DevOps now. That's something you can read in much job offerings. We are searching for a DevOps engineer starting soon, and normally that's some kind of ops person to be dropped into a development team to do all that opsy stuff for the developers they don't want to do. That's the poor guy on call. Okay, services are down, it's not our problem, we developed that services. We have a DevOps person for that, he's on call and he will fix that. That's not the idea. The idea is, at first, okay, there will be ops persons and dev persons in that team, but after a while it should be something like T-shaped personalities that everybody is able to do these DevOps things, and not only the guy which moved from the former ops department. You don't want a small ops department in your dev team. You just have to merge these capabilities. The second one is called Ops as a Service. That means the ops team is doing something like updating infrastructure, patching infrastructure, coordinating failovers, setting up failovers, monitoring the network, and something like that. And the DevOps team, the DevOpsing part is something like infrastructure as code, deployments, metrics, black box monitoring, white box monitoring. We heard that before. And they communicate through well-defined APIs in the best case. That's, from my point of view, the classical cloud scenario, because it's AWS. They are providing database servers, patching database servers, updating, security fixing, whatever. And you have to have DevOps people that are able to create new database instances by code, not just click in the AWS console, and do automatic deployments to your cloud infrastructure, or monitor that database, and so on. That can also be a temporal state. Many big firms on their way to cloud, had a former ops department, a former dev department, and they build up something like that and define clear APIs between DevOps and ops. And after a while, they shut down their own specific ops department and use some cloud services or something like that. But the most important part is the communication through well-defined APIs. The third one I would show you is collaboration. That's the most hard one. The Dev and Ops team collaborate on a daily basis. That means something like bi-directional job rotation, hospitation, pairing, or something like that. Matthew Skelton, which is the author or the origin of that models, that DevOps organization models, names it the promised land of DevOps, because Dev and Ops are at the same level and collaborate on that topics that are interesting. There are specific Ops topics on the right-hand side, specific Dev topics on the left-hand side, and all the topics where both are involved are solved in collaboration. The promised land. That's also a big challenge in mindset, because the devs must start to ask for feedback for their logging, for their deployment, for their scripts and something like that. They have to take ops features serious. We have to build in something to monitor, we have to build in something to have these and that. And ops guys have to be interested in things like TDD, Git, deployment tools, and not just monitoring, not just being a DBA and monitoring the Oracle. The overall goal is Dev and Ops must clearly express a clearly expressed common goal. Without a common goal, they will optimize big, rare changes, small, continuous changes. That means you have to have a very technical focused management above that creates viable goals that allow that collaboration between Dev and Ops. Okay. And it's important, collaboration does not have assigning Jira tickets to somebody. Collaboration means pairing, means maybe attending daily stand-ups, the ops guys attending daily stand-ups of the development team and so on. If you like to see more of that possible topologies, visit devopstopologies.com. That's a website created by Matthew Skelton. He has a few more scenarios covering something like SRE teams and so on. But I chose the most classical ones. And now we'll focus on one specific. That's the classical cross-functional thing. And that means we won't have any functional teams anymore. There are only cross-functional teams. And from this state of the organization, some problems arise. One of the problems is, all my mates are gone. I have to work with these awful JavaScript developers all the day. They don't understand how sophisticated Opsing and Kubernetes and delivering containers to production is. They are doing something in the browser, debugging JavaScript applications. They don't understand me. And even the backend developers, okay, they are cool guys delivering features in Go, but they don't, we share the same language, programming language, but the problem is they don't understand me. They don't understand my specific problems delivering a resource for Kubernetes in production. Where are all my mates gone? I have had wonderful ops guys understanding my problems, helping me with that problems, innovating our technology stack. They're all gone. They're all spread around through all these cross-functional teams. And that's no specific DevOps problem, that's a problem of cross-functional teams in general. That means if you have cross-functional teams with all that functions on board, these guys are especially these ops guys, these are two ones, they are not as lonely as he is. That means these ops guys are starting to feel very, very lonely, and nobody is able to understand their problems. What does that mean? Lacking support for everyday problems. It's a hack. I don't know why it's not working. Just, I need a second pair of eyes to have a look on that problem. That helps. But where are all my mates? Not the JavaScript developers, sorry. Missing knowledge sharing. I went to a conference, I listened to talks and found out impressive new things about Kubernetes and so on, and there's nobody listening. Not the JavaScript guys, not the backend developers guys, sorry, not the UX design guys. No collective learning. We had some cool hackathons in the past where we set up something cool in the infrastructure or backend services or something like that. It's all gone. They are all gone. Nobody is there for these cool hackathons to learn something new, to be innovative, or to have a new technology stack. And that's another point where managers are getting angry. You will have isolated technology decisions. That means one team is using Kubernetes, next one is Docker Swarm, and so on and so on. And management says that you are kidding. Every team is using a different database technology. What's about synergies, guys? And how are other companies fixing that problems? I've chosen a bigger one of that companies. You may know it all, it's Spotify. And as Spotify gives cooler names to every concept we know, it's not a team, it's a squad at Spotify. And they solved the problem by inserting something like that are the squads, teams. And they inserted something like chapters, which means all the guys sharing the same profession, back-end development, front-end development, DevOpsing, UX design, testing, whatever, assembled to a chapter, a skills team, across all the cross-functional teams. And the more common word for that is communities of practice. Communities of practice allow the members to create shared standards, a common baseline or a common knowledge. What should an ops guy, a back-end guy at our company know about Kubernetes, for example? You can solve everyday problems together. Just come around. Let's see what's the problem is starting that fancy microservice using Docker and Kubernetes and whatever. You can distribute knowledge. You can show something like, hey guys, what I did with Kubernetes was really amazing. I'll show you that. And you can foster innovation in that communities of practice. That's an overall layer cross-cutting to all that cross-functional teams. A community of practice is a bit different from things like meetups or so on. Meetups do have a domain as well. What's the topic we are talking about? What's our profession? Meetups or user groups do have a community as well. Discussing to myself is like in my cross-functional teams with all the other developers around. But the most important difference is practice. That means a community of practice is continuously delivering things that are impacting the daily work. Maybe cloud formation templates for setting up microservices in the AWS cloud, or a best practice guide for setting up Prometheus or whatever. But to have that clear, there are different types of community of practice, and you have to clearly communicate what's the aim, what's the goal of the community, because otherwise everybody will be angry about that. AVI is the first goal, the main goal, to help each other, to fix everyday problems, to establish best practices, to share knowledge, or to foster innovation. There's an example in one of the standard books about community of practice, where a community of practice was created, and after a while, the young developers heard, oh, all the senior developers are in that community of practice, and it's pretty interesting what they are discussing. And all these young junior developers joined as well, which in the result was that all the senior developers founded a new community of practice only for senior developers, not just to talk that everyday stuff that junior developers brought. That means you have to have a clear goal for your community of practice, and that can be, for example, communicated by some kind of carta. That's the template we use, and fix it on the wall. What's our domain? What are the deliverables described by post-its or something like that? Who is part of the community? There are photos posted, and what are the meetings? Are meetings every week or every 2 weeks? And sorry, it's in German. At the end, there's some kind of task board to have transparency within the company. What is the community of practice currently working? Okay, dude, job is done. We broke all the silos. You broke all the silos. Who of you is all doing agile at your company? Who is agile? It's another talk. Who thinks their company has real cross-functional teams? Real cross-functional. Oh, not as much as the last one. Okay, we work all down on silos. Really, is that the truth? How about your product managers? Are they part of the cross-functional teams? Or do you have a silo containing product managers? No, we are good. Scrum, we implemented Scrum very well. The product manager is our product owner. He's part of the team. No pigs and chickens anymore. He's part of the team. Okay, there's no silo with product managers. What's about support? Do you have a support silo, communicating via tickets or something like that? Or is support part of your silo, your dev and ops? And the interesting thing is, most of the literature focuses on ops is that kind of, is the server up and running? Do we have latency in the network? And something like that. But on the chart, one of the collaboration charts, or one of the problems was, the developers don't know how their solution performs in production. And classical ops is just one part of the story. The other part are these guys. How does my solutions perform in production? Do the users love it or hate it? I shipped some kind of features. Database seems to be cool. Latency is okay. CPU is within normal parameters, but the customers hate that new software, that new feature. Jimdo, a German website company, tested that approach by half job rotation of support engineers throughout their teams. And it was pretty amazing which insights the developers got from having these colleagues on board. Your telephone is ringing the whole day, what's the problem? Yeah, the problem is your software. Okay, how many of you have support guys integrating into their cross-functional DevOps teams? No one. Hit. What about business analysts or experts, business experts? Integrated in their teams? Or is there something like, oh yeah, we have a, it's not called analysis phase, that's very waterfall. We think it's something like development and ideas generation, or are they part of the team, or is there a silo containing a business analyst or business experts? Do you start implementation after these guys define what to implement? Do you have some kind of silo with handovers? And where do your user stories come from? Oh, there is a user story factory, 2 guys at room number 704, and they are creating all that user stories, and the product owner brings that and prioritizes and puts it to the taskboard. That means, maybe you have a wonderful dev support ops silo and a business analyst silo. I'm glad it has a name. There is an idea of connecting these worlds. It's named BizDevOps. In the short future, we'll have some terms like that: Biz, Sec, Dev, whatever ops. That means no walls. The business guys are part of the team. And that means rapid innovation, not we're defining features you have to implement, and after the dev team implemented that features, we'll have a test phase. That's some kind of pipelining, and we have a waterfall with nice Scrum bubbles in it, or DevOps bubbles. That means in an ideal world, you will have something like, we define a hypothesis, we build a small part, we release it, we test it in production with real customers and get, via support, feedback about it, and learn from it and iterate the next round. That's the reason why we used to have story cards containing hypotheses. And not, we have to build that feature. The user wants to log on. Our hypothesis, our assumption is that visitors coming from AdWords, we are paying money for that, drop off our site because they are expecting something different than they see at our landing page. Okay, that's our hypothesis, and that means we have to provide a solution for that and can see, in an ideal world, the results in Google Analytics after shipping that feature. But wait, AdWords, there's someone missing, right? These guys. Are they part of your cross-functional team, marketing? You have a classical marketing environment. Am I right? Yes. Okay. In our cross-functional teams, marketing is integrated in that team, because something like, we start an AdWords campaign, we set up Google Analytic rules, we build a feature, we deliver that feature, and we measure if the feature is valuable for the customer, needs marketing support. Writing emails, setting up AdWords, setting up Google Analytics, and so on. That means in the end, we have a pretty crowded team. That's some kind of BizSec DevOps team. Okay, I think you got the message. Everybody will be part of the cross-functional team, right? The whole organization will be part of the cross-functional team. Okay, stop. No. Let's discuss this. The decision is, it's the marketing guy again. Will we have a central marketing department, or will the marketing guy part of the cross-functional team? Hey dude, you told us he's part of the cross-functional team. Well, it depends. I've been consultant for years, it depends. That means on the communication links, that's a term formed by Jochen Appelot in Management 3.0. He says that's a cross-functional approach and that's a functional approach. And there's no better or worse. There's just, how are the communication links? Is the main part of the communication between the marketing guy and the cross-functional product team? He's part of the product team. Is the main part of the communication between the marketing guy and the marketing department? He's part of the marketing team. That means if my general approach is for a product, we build AdWords campaigns, configure Google Analytics and something like that. I think he should part of that team. If he has more to do with all the other marketing guys, he has to be part of a functional marketing team, delivering services to the product team. What we did is we put all the marketing guys to the cross-functional teams, and they started feeling lonely. Only developers around, nobody understands me. That means there's a community of practice for marketing guys. So, but that sounds very familiar. We have seen that before for DevOps. The first scenario is embedding. There's a marketing guy in the team. It's not called ops, it's marketing. And the second scenario is something like collaboration. There's a specific marketing department doing specific marketing stuff. There's a specific dev team doing dev stuff. And there's something in between, AdWords, whatever, collaborating. But wait, there were 3 models, weren't there? That's pretty hard because the main aspect of that model was a clear API to communicate with each other. And if you have a clear API to communicate with marketing, the clear API is not Jira. If you have a clear API to communicate with marketing, you don't need a marketing department, you can just outsource that and have it very, very cheap and not just have a marketing department. That's the reason why while focusing on that part, and the key to choose one of them is just the communication links. The marketing support, whatever guy is hanging around the whole day with the dev team, hey, let's talk about blah, blah, blah. He is part of that team. Or the main time he's communicating with the other marketing guys, that means he should be part of a marketing team. Okay. But how is that organized? And what about these guys from HR, accounting, legal, CISO, and all these nice, cool guys from the company? They are part of the cross-functional team, right? I think they won't be. Maybe you're building a legal product. Then legal will be part of your cross-functional team. But in most of the cases, you're not building a legal product. That means you have something like Niels Pfleging called that the peach model. That's a peach. And in the center or core are functional units. And in the pulp of the peach are the product teams. Their single job is to deliver value, energy, fun to the market, to the customers. And their single purpose is to support all that product teams by doing that and not hindering them, like legal or CISO or which people do that once in a while. Okay, that means functional teams reside in the center and the product teams reside in the periphery of that peach and deliver value to the customers. Okay, understood. And but what we finished to change our project. How many of you at firms are doing projects? Nobody's doing projects. That's cool. Because the problem is, the question is, we finished the change. The project is finished in a DevOps environment. In the banks I worked for, it was very clear. There's one part of the bank that's named Change the Bank, CTB, a different part that's named Run the Bank, RDB. And after the project is finished, the CDB team completes the documentation and gives the package to the RDB team. Change finished. But the problem is, where is the RDB team here in that picture? There is no in die Linie übergeben anymore. There is no line management. There is no run the bank anymore. You build it, you run it. That means I have a problem doing projects. But why? Let's have a look on that. A project has a finite scope, time and budget. You have the same players, hopefully, during the project. It sets stable rules, and the goal is, it's a finite game, the goal is win the game. Deliver the scope on time, on budget, and quality. A product is infinite, players are changing. Today I need marketing, next day I need someone different, rules are changing. The goal in an infinite game like a product is stay in the game, not win the game. There are simple metaphors regarding soccer, and that's the soccer game, and that's building up a soccer team. That means we do projects in our organizations? The problem is we have to admit change is the new normal. Not package the change within a project, and after the change happened, we deliver it to wherever. That means change is the new normal, and what follows from that is we don't have to do projects. Quit doing projects. Most of the things you are doing are products, wearing project suits, with all the problems you can see. Switching teams, technical debt, and so on. There's a big movement, #NoProjects, delivering books on that, beyond budgeting. How do I manage budgets without having any projects anymore? That are good questions, and the no projects and beyond budgeting approach is focusing on that. So the message is, if you do real DevOps, Biz, Dev, Sec, support ops, don't do any projects anymore. And even if you don't do DevOps, don't do any projects anymore. Okay, if you like to read more about all these topics, it's only available in German. In the German Java magazine. It's also hosted on Jack Center. I have a series of articles, it's called DevOps Stories, and focusing on things like cross-functional teams, what about marketing, what about community of practice, and so on. It's printed, and after a month after print release, you can read it on Jack Center as well. And now I want to thank you for listening. I hope you got some impulses about your DevOps culture at your companies. I'm very glad that not many of you are doing projects anymore. And if you're interested in learning more, visit our blog, our job site, or in a few days, visit the new website. Thanks a lot.